Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys for joining our Let's Talk a Dangerous Prayer. And I'm here again with my good friend, Rocio Cardenas. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me. I hope everyone is ready for the second part.
We are, but I kind of want to recap a little bit of what we talked about in Search Me. So we talked about your childhood that led up to your teen years, and then that led into a really toxic relationship. And from that, you struggle a little bit to get out. Finally, you did. You had your Search Me prayer, and that's kind of where we stopped. So we're gonna lead kind of into what happened after that, when that break. What does that break me experience look like, But before you do start, I kind of wanted to kind of share a little bit about what you talked about and how I was able to, relate. And a lot of people don't know this, but I know that there was one quote in the book that said that we're impressed by strengths, but we connect by weaknesses. And I connected with your childhood. I also was sexually abused by a family member when I was younger, and I can see how that affected me later in life, and I was very angry for like a long time, and I also felt that unworthiness, that I feel like I didn't have any more value, and I understand the whole hush hush thing in a Mexican household. You kind of don't say those things, especially as a guy. Like, you just don't. Why would you? You wouldn't. You're embarrassed. Like, that happened to you. But I don't know. It's hard. I mean, it's easy for me to kind of tell a friend, but I am kind of thinking right now. A lot of people are gonna see this, and I don't know what they're gonna say, and I don't know how people are gonna look at me different. But anything does not reveal doesn't heal, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to thank you for bringing that, for sharing that, because that helped me kind of say that now, and I hope people who are watching this are able to also get that encouragement to, like, what, reveal it. The only way for you to heal it is by revealing it. So
revealing it to God.
Revealing it to God, yes, to God, and He'll help you heal. Like, thankfully, I have healed at that from what happened. And but I feel like maybe that's for a different time. I just kind of wanted to thank you for that, and kind of share that a lot of us can connect. It's just
and thank you for sharing that. I feel like it's very hard for a lot of men to even acknowledge what happened, and that kind of, it might empower someone else, that might be struggling with this internalized, experience, all of these negative things that happen to them, and maybe they will be able to have that courage to speak up and tell someone, and, seek help. There's nothing wrong for, seeking help and, praying about it and putting God first. And thank you for sharing your experience.
Oh, well. Enough about me. We're gonna go back and pick up where we left off from the last video, which was you're here with your prayer. What happens next?
Okay, so like how I stated, there was that little pebble, and I tripped again, right? So starting off, I felt, I guess I retracted again. And I was still out in the world, and I was doing whatever, hanging out with the wrong crowd, and there was a couple of incidents that happened, especially when you're under the influence. It doesn't justify other people's behavior, but I feel like if you're under the influence, you might be like a higher target, with like sexual assault and stuff. So there was a time that another family member, which no one really knows about it, and this is the first time I guess I'm kind of sharing it too. I won't disclose, because I feel like I don't know. It's something that's still kind of there, I guess. But yeah, so it happened with another family member, and but God is so powerful, you know. God is so powerful, and nothing major happened, and I don't know what it was. I remember my brother calling me, and I was like, you know, I was like, what's happening? Like, where's my phone? You know, and then it was my brother, and then I'm like, hello, and he's like, where are you? He started yelling at me, and I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. I didn't know where I was, and and then he's like, well, you need to get home, blah 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 blah. And then I just like sent him my location, and he's like, who are you with? And no one was there, and then I saw like my family member, and I'm like, what the heck, you know? And I was wearing a dress, so it's like, I'm like, okay, and myself, I kind of like brushed it under the rug too, like in that moment, like, hey, I need to go home, you know, and it's like I need to go home, and so he just dropped me off, and my brother also too, he was just kind of like, oh, like it was weird. It was like this weird vibe. Like, I don't know what happened.
The family member dropped you off?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, at my house. And, well, my parents will probably see this. But, yeah, so that happened. And that's when I'm like, what in the world? Like, you know, this just happened to me. And I'm like, okay, like, God, you know, he has given me many chances, you know, and I'm like, I really need to let go, right? And I did, through his grace, you know. I'm like, you know what, bam, you know, cutting everything, cut friendships off, you know, family members off.
So this was your for real this time, right?
Yeah, like
we have a lot of this for real this time. Okay, this one, okay, yeah, I'm done, and then you do it again. So this was this one was the this was it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This was, I guess, the breakthrough part, and that's when, you know, I poured my heart out to God, and I'm like, Jesus, like, please, like, heal me, like, I'm tired of living like this, you know, like, where did my life, how did I get here, like, how in the world did I get here, you know, like, there was a lot of self-blame too happening, and that's when I realized, I'm like, okay, I'm letting it go, you know, cutting everything off. And
how hard was cutting it off? Because I've tried to cut certain people off, and it's tough because, you know, those are your friends, those are the people that have been there for you, those are the people, you know, through thick and thin, and they've done favors, and, you know, they've been there at your toughest times or darkest moments, and it's kind of like, you know, that maybe they're not the best influence, but how do you cut off somebody who, you know, you feel like they're good?
It was really easy for me. I know it sounds bad, but I'm just like, snip, snip, you know, you're out of there. Because I'm like, toxic. There's a lot of toxicity, you know, like, and I'm like, and it was really easy for me to do it. Like, you know, being honest, like, I didn't think about it twice. I did not think about it twice. And I'm like, okay, you know, the last sip, the last everything, the last going out, like, you know, gracias a Dios, you know, I haven't, you know, and it was easy for me. And I kept in contact with one of my friends, and I hung out with her, and we just went to go have lunch recently, and she was able to see a change in me without me even saying, like, anything, you know, like, and she was one of the people that I would always hang out with, and it was like, okay, and that's when I knew that God had really changed my heart. That other people were able to see how you mentioned, you're like, the first person I thought about was you, you know, and that's how Jesus works in our lives, you know, and that's how testimony is so powerful. That other people could see Jesus Christ through you, you know, and that's when I realized, I'm like, okay, God really changed my heart, you know. I didn't feel like, oh, like, I'm losing out, like, you know, having fun or whatever, you know. No, I don't regret it a second, you know. And I want to read you a verse that really stood out to me, Ezekiel 36, 26, and 27. It says, a new heart also will give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and ye shall keep my judgments and do them. So God took, my old heart, he put in a new heart, and he's there, and it's a process, you just don't become perfect out of, and, nowhere, and it's a process, it's a struggle, there's a lot of challenges, there's temptations, you overcame, through Jesus Christ, you overcame one struggle, but then there's the next, and then there's the next, so it's like being firm and putting your faith in him, because through him, we could do everything. He tells us to seek him and he will give us blessings in abundance, and I think that's when you know that you really are accepting him, 100%. And like you said, it's hard to leave those friends, especially because you think that, they've always been there for you. But if you think about it, sometimes friends are the people that stray you away from God, so I encourage everyone to reflect on the friends you have, reflect on your family members, and make that decision, like seek Christ, because he's the one that's never going to leave you, he's going to be with you always, and he's never going to backstab you, he's never going to stray you away, he wants your heart and he wants you 100%.
Yeah, I definitely think that's kind of tough, because then that can also be like how you said before, it could be toxic relationship or friendship, right? Mm-hmm. And we see it with relationships, like people being in, can't get out, and then also a friendship, like, you can't get out because, you have that loyalty with that person. But I want to go like deeper, like I want to go through that process of that breaking, because yes, you went through the prayer and he broke you and now everything's fine, but how did he restore your heart? Like, how was that journey of, like, what did you feel, what did you see that he did, and how does somebody even know that they have a new heart? Because it's easy a lot of the times to say, like, he restored my heart, like we read the verse, it's very deceitful. You can think you have a good heart, but you probably don't. So I guess walk us through that process, and then how do you know when he has changed your heart?
I think when you realize that the things that you're doing are not pleasing him. If you think that what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're eating, it doesn't please God, then that's when I'm like, okay, all of these things are not okay. They might be okay, worldly things, but if God really changed my heart, then he will convict me of my sin. I felt convicted. I'm like, the more I felt convicted, the closer I wanted to get with Jesus. I wanted to know who he was, because I didn't. I wouldn't read my Bible, like, I would go to church, but I wasn't like there, present. But I'm like, okay, I need to change, I can't change by myself, but like those small changes, I was able to see, like, okay, like, I want to know him, I want to read, I want to practice what, I'm reading, teaching others, reflecting his character. And it hasn't been an easy journey, and it's still not easy. And I feel like a lot of people might resonate with it too, that sometimes you just don't want to read the Bible, and because you're like, oh, like, I don't feel like it's fun, or it's not like a good read or whatever, so you engage in other behaviors. But it's like God is searching and he wants your heart, he wants you to come clean of everything, say it out loud, how you were saying, right? When you say it out loud, you're asking God to come into your heart, and you are, I don't know how to say it in English, but reprendiendo a Satanás, I don't know how to say it in English, but like, so that's when I'm like, okay, like, I want to change, I don't want to be doing the same thing, because that's not who I am, and that's not what God created me for, Like,
and I feel like a lot of us expect that change to happen just because we think or we know that God knows our heart, right? Like, oh, He knows what I need, so why didn't He just do it? A lot of the time we think, like, why do I need to say it if He knows? But I kind of think about it like, well, you have a wife, right? And why do you tell her you love her if she already knows? You need that that vocalization of like, like, hey, I need help. He knows you need help, but sometimes he wants you to say it. Like, he wants you to recognize.
And you have the willingness to do it, because if you say it and he wants to transform you, you also have to do your part, Like, it's like you have to do your part too, But yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good. So continue with the process of the breaking. Because we know when we stop before, a lot of the times we kind of get that calling, right, and we reject it because we're scared. And finally, the moment came when you weren't scared. And what did He reveal?
So I think that it was more of a salvation thing. I'm like, I want to be saved. I want to be with Him. I don't want to be lost, so He revealed my sin. But yet again, He told me, you are worthy, and I really needed those words because I felt like I struggled so much. I'm like, okay, you're worthy of love. Like, you're worthy of being happy. You're worthy of, being successful. You're worthy of, living a holy life. And that's when I'm like, okay, like I want it, like with open arms. And it's like, what else do you want me to do, like, and I just told Him, I'm like, use me, I'm an empty vessel, like, please come in my heart, please come in my mind, because I know through Him that we could do great things, and through that I was able to fully commit to, like, church and be more involved, be more active, and I love it. Like, I like being there. I like encouraging my youth. I'm like, hey, like, join this, whatever, Vespers, things like that. The more involved, the more active I got, I knew that God was working through me, and I bet, like, a lot of people might feel the same, like, hey, like, maybe if you're not really active in church or you're not really actively doing your own, I guess, ministry or whatever, I encourage you to seek out, like talk to your youth director.
You've definitely seen, like, the blessings.
Yeah.
Through the break.
Mm-hmm.
Break me, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I think the break me. So the search me, asking God, like, hey, this is who I am. This is who I am. The break me. Please, like, clean my heart. I don't want to be the same. So that's when I felt like, okay, God, like, I really need you.
Thank you. I feel like that's very, that's very powerful. Hopefully that somebody, even myself, like, if whoever's watching gets, encouraged to, to not be scared anymore, to not be scared of the calling, to not be scared when, the sign is there. Because a lot of us, kind of turn away or, say, oh, maybe next time, kind of. But I feel
what
like,
if there's not a next time?
Yeah.
You could.
And that's also scary. We take that for granted, that tomorrow's never promised, and we just say, oh, tomorrow, and tomorrow may never come, and like, I don't know, just kind of thinking about it is kind of like those things of, I think about those times where I haven't, replied. I'm like, oh, well, not right now, because there are certain things that you still have your battles with, and you're not completely able to let go. And just the fact that you're just able to let go the next day, and like, oh yeah, you're done. I'm good.
I feel like sometimes that could be a flaw.
But
shout out to all my friends. No, but I feel like it's like, if you're able to have that breakthrough and show that to other people, and you're fully committed to God, then hey, reach out to those friends and be like, hey, like, come to church, and like, you could still testify through that as well, you could encourage them and, you know, spread the gospel.
Right. Well, now that we, you know, did Search Me, Break Me, there's one more left, which is Send Me, and I know that's also going to be very good for our next video. So I just want to thank you for coming back, and you know, I hope you guys were able to relate, maybe be encouraged, and I just also want to point out that in our life group, like we also kind of share a little bit of our Search Me. And some of us like have shared that, you know, like breaking moment, and some of us, I think that life group really works because through hearing other people and knowing that there's other people just like you struggling with the same thing or different things, but they're in the same boat, just kind of gives you like that encouragement, like, okay, let's do it together. Because a lot of the times maybe you're scared to do it alone, or you think, well, everybody's moved on and I'm still over here, or nobody wants to, you know. So if you guys are in a life group, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't joined a life group, I encourage you. This was my first time joining a life group with Relive, so I right now I'm enjoying it. I really hope we can have this conversation in our life groups like we're having now. And you know, after we're done with the book, we hope that we are able to share our own testimony and people see the change in us. And you know, I just feel like we can talk for hours, but you know we don't have that much time. But you know, thank you again. Thank you everybody for watching, and stay tuned for the next video of Send Me.